Well, we've got another American model steam engine here, but this time it's a Jensen as opposed to, well, I normally have Whedon's to show you, but I'm very lucky, won this on auction on eBay in the States. This is an early Jensen model number 25. Now, this is not the earliest of the Jensen 25s. I believe they first started making these in about 1937, but they had a much larger cylinder. Same layout, wooden base, you know, same boiler and everything, but the cylinder, this was much larger. This size was introduced, this size of cylinder was introduced in, I think, 1948, something like that. So this is quite an old one. It's very difficult to age them accurately. You know when they started producing them, but yeah, it's in very good condition. It's a bit dirty. It needs a damn good clean up, but it's all there. I haven't checked the element yet, so I'm not sure what state that's in. About the only real problem with it is that for some obscure reason, somebody has decided to paint the flywheel, the eccentric, the crank, the conrod, and the end of the piston, and very poorly paint them, unfortunately. There shouldn't be any paint on any of that. The only paint should be the blue base. This is correct. There's blue on the base, it's correct, but the rest of it should be bare metal. So I'm going to have to strip it down and try and get this paint off. Hopefully, as it's been so badly painted, I'm assuming that they didn't use any primer on it or anything. So yeah, hopefully that paint will come off quite nicely. But it's all free. It all turns nicely. It's, you know, it's all in pretty good nick, really, from what I can tell. So yeah, so we'll get it stripped down. As I said, I'm not going to do, there's no real restoration required here, just a damn good clean up and get rid of that paint. And then hopefully, as long as the element's okay, we should be able to steam it. Okay, so the engine's had a bit of a clean up, come up quite nicely. I've managed to get most of the paint off. The paint on the nickel plated parts was fairly easy. I just put that in a bath with some white spirit and it basically floated away. The flywheel was a bit more tricky getting the paint off. It stuck, the paint stuck quite well to the rough cast, this cast iron rough part of the casting, and that was difficult to clean off, but we pretty much got there. There's some faint traces still left on, but I'm not too worried about that. It looks pretty good. But during the course of the cleanup, I had a close look at various parts, and I discovered something rather strange about the crank. We can go and have a look at this in close up. I'll take you in. Now, there we go. Well, you see, that's not right. This whole piece has been added. The ring around the outside and this like counterweight here, this piece has been added. This is the original crank, the brass bit. That would have been the original crank on the engine. It would simply have been, let's turn it around that way so you can see it. It would have simply have been a piece of brass with a boss and a threaded hole. So all of this around the outside has been soldered on by the looks of it. So I'm going to have a go at removing that. I'm hoping that if I just heat it up, that will all fall off. But we'll see. We'll give it a go and find out. Right, let's see if we can reveal the original crank. Yep, that's what I was hoping was going to happen. I don't quite know why anyone would do that, really. You know, this was just like a metal ring and a load of solder. I mean, it really is rather strange, but we'll let that cool down and then we'll clean up the original crank on the wild wheel and we should be ready to put the thing back together. Well, it's all back together. Managed to get all the paint off. There's still a faint trace of the green on the flywheel, but you can't really see it unless you get in really close. It's looking really nice, actually. It's cleaned up really well, and especially now we've got the crank back to how it's supposed to be. That was rather strange, that. As was the whole painting thing. And it, you know, the more I looked at it, the more it looked like it had the crank and the eccentric strap and the conrod had all been painted in situ. It hadn't been removed and painted. It had actually been painted in situ. So yeah, all very strange. But yeah, it's all back to how it should be. Looking very nice. I didn't really, as I said, I didn't really have to do an awful lot to this. And it is occasionally it's quite nice to have an engine which is easy, unlike say like the vacuum rotor engine, which took weeks of work to get it to where we are with it today. This was a couple of days' work really. As I said, most of the paint came off of the cylinder quite easily just by soaking it in white spirit. But yeah, it's looking good. I'm well pleased with it. I've checked the element. It's reading 29.9 ohms, which is about spot on for a 450 watt heater element, which is what is supposedly in here. So I think the next job is to get it running. So let's get it steamed. Well, I was watering the boiler, the heater is on, and I can definitely hear some noise which sounds like pressure building. And just so that this engine is no different to any of my other steam engines, it's got a leaky sight glass. Wouldn't be one of mine anyway if it didn't have a leaky sight glass. So we'll let it build up some steam, and hopefully we will have a running engine. We've got some bubbling around the sight glass, so I think we're probably good to go. Yes, there we go, look at that, bubbly. These American Jensen engines are very well made, and they generally run superbly. I don't think I've ever had one that had a problem, certainly with the cylinder and valving. It was always, they were always really good. How about that for slow running? Isn't that amazing? Well, you know you've got a good engine when you can get that out of it. Safety's blowing off, so we'll speed it up a little bit. Try the whistle. Yeah. No problem. No problem at all. What a lovely engine. And almost silent too. There you go. Absolutely lovely. Jensen 25. These are always a real pleasure to run, and I noticed when I want to put it back together that the spring on the safety valve is extremely weak, so there's very little pressure. It's taking very little pressure to run this. The safety valve's blowing off fairly early, so let's lose a bit of pressure. Yeah, absolutely superb. What a lovely engine. Why the hell anyone would want to paint it is beyond me, but there you go. I guess if it's your engine, you can do what you like to it. But hopefully this is pretty much back to what it would have been out of the factory. Interesting engines, particularly this particular model, the Model 25. I believe this has been in production longer than any other Jensen engine. And there's been a lot of variants. It's far more common on these to have the Stevens link reversing mechanism on here, which this one doesn't have. But they did sell them without it. You know, as I said, the very early ones from the 1930s, they had a much larger cylinder. So, yeah, an interesting engine, quite an interesting history. Go on, if you're interested in these engines, Jensen have got quite a good website in the States, and they have a museum page which has got archived pictures and information about the various different engines. So it's if you're interested in these things, it's well worth a look. I like the cast iron. I like the really well made and machined. The castings are well made. You know, the valve block and everything. It's all really well done. It's good quality. It's a good quality stuff. Piercing that whistle, isn't it? Yeah, I'm well pleased with that. That's a lovely, lovely engine. So let's turn the power off and see how long she'll run for. As I said, it's almost certainly only running on about, I don't know, 5-8 psi, something like that. Safety's still going off even though we've turned the power off. Okay, the safety stopped now. Not bad, is it? I don't know what's that been, at least a minute, I suppose. It's still running. And I've also got the regulator shut, pretty much shut. I think I can see a little bit of green paint still on the cylinder. That one, I missed that little tiny bit there. Let's take a go at getting that off. Like I said, there's no power on it now. This is just residual pressure in the boiler that it's running on. Amazing. Yeah, these really are lovely engines. If you're into model steam engines, get yourself some Jensens. They are very, very nice. And if you want to have a look at some of the rarer ones, go and have a look at the Blue Healers YouTube channel. Jim over on Blue Healers, he's got some very, very nice and quite rare Jensens. Twin piston jobs, very, very nice. So yeah, I'll put a link in the description below to Jim's YouTube channel. Definitely worth a look. And this is quite incredible. It's a tribute to how free everything is and how smooth all the motion is. That it's still running. You know, it's now been several minutes since I turned the power off. And we've got enough pressures to keep it going. Right, it's running down now, look. But yeah, what a lovely engine. Anyway, there you go. That's it for the Jensen model number 25, circa late 1940s, early 1950s for this particular model. Hope you enjoyed this little video. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers.